Well, the most striking moment in Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony for me is when she reported Donald Trump saying of the Ellipse rally that it was time to take down the mags, take down the metal detectors, because hundreds, perhaps thousands of his people were not coming in because they didn't want to give up their guns, their knives, their sharpened flags turned into spears, the bear spray, and all of the other weapons. The service were checking people there, and Trump explodes and says, take down the mags, take down the effing mags. These are my people, and they're not going to hurt me.
I was in the vicinity of a conversation where I overheard the president say something to the effect of, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol from here. Let the people in. Take the effing mags away.
This tells us, one, he knew that the mob was armed. Two, he knew that they wanted to keep their arms. Three, he didn't care that they were armed. And four, his response to the whole thing was not, let me call the Secret Service, let me call the police, let's get some people on this, but rather, I want to be part of that. I want to be in it on the march to the Capitol. This goes far beyond anything I had seen before. I was perfectly well aware and perfectly believing that Donald Trump was at the center of the various conspiracies to overthrow Joe Biden's majority in the Electoral College, to coerce state election officials like Brad Raffensperger to invent fraudulent vote totals. I knew he was behind the effort to get state legislators to void out popular vote results and just substitute Trump electors. Of course, he was behind the lawsuits, which were perfectly legitimate, but all of which rejected his big lie and his claims of electoral fraud. We knew, of course, that he was behind the mini coup at the Department of Justice, the attempt to get the acting attorney general and the other people to just decree that there was corruption in the election and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman. And he was behind the attempt, the failed attempt to try to overthrow his acting attorney general and to install a flunky in his position. We knew also that he was behind the effort to try to force Mike Pence to step outside of his constitutional role and to declare unilateral, unprecedented, lawless powers to nullify electoral college votes, send them back to the states, which would have allowed Trump either just to win on the House floor, which was one idea, or at the very least to kick it into the House of Representatives for a so-called contingent election under the 12th Amendment, because they knew we would be voting by state there, and the GOP controlled 27 states, the Democrats 22, and Pennsylvania split down the middle, 9-9. Even had they lost Wyoming, where the at-large representative Liz Cheney was unlikely to go along with this fraud, they still would have had 26 states, and that would have resulted in his winning in the Electoral College. We knew Donald Trump was behind all of that, but the thought was, now it seems almost ridiculous, but the thought was, well, he summoned the crowd there and he decreed that everybody show up on January 6th at 1 p.m. at the exact same time Congress was meeting to count the Electoral College votes, and he did everything he could to mobilize that crowd and pump it up. He became the first president in U.S. history to call for a protest against a presidential election on the day that Congress was counting electors. But we didn't think we would find that he was so integrally involved in the violent dimension of it. He knew those people had weapons, and that was fine with him. He just didn't want them to be impeded in their flow into his crowd, which of course he wanted to be as massive as possible. That crowd was going to become the march to the Capitol, and that would become the source of the worst domestic violent attack on the Congress of the United States, on the Capitol of the United States, on the vice president, certainly in our lifetimes and probably in American history.